Hello, I'm Emily Rhodes, and today I'm going to be chatting to you a little bit about this book, The Return by Hisham Matar. This is the June 2026 book for Emily's Walking Book Club. If you don't already know about us, what we do, we've been going quite a long time now, I think maybe even nearly 20 years. That makes me feel quite old, certainly more than 15. What we do is we choose one book a month, and every month there are 3 chances to meet up and chat about that book. So it might be on one of our walks in Regent's Park or on Hampstead Heath or over Zoom on a Monday evening. There's also a free newsletter that goes out every Monday, which you can find and sign up to. I'd love that, at emily'swalkingbookclub.substack.com. So this is our June pick. I chose it this month in part because, of course, June has Father's Day in it, and this is an exploration of fatherhood among many other things. I first came to the work of Hisham Matar with his debut novel, In the Country of Men, which I read, I think I must have been in my early 20s when it came out, and it really had such an impact on me. I deeply loved it. He then wrote another book, another novel, Anatomy of a Disappearance, and then, I think this is right, I think this was the book that came next, which was non-fiction, and it went on to win or be shortlisted for loads and loads of awards. It's often talked about as a biography, which I think is fair, but one of the discussion points, I think, for this book, a really important one, is asking the question of what genre actually is it? In part, it's about the author sort of writing about his father and trying to get to the truth of what happened to him. His father was a political dissident in Libya and was arrested under the Gaddafi regime and imprisoned, and we don't find out what happened to him, and it's about trying to find out, trying to come to terms with not finding out, piecing together, what might have happened, and the various sort of difficulties that go with that. And I would say it is a pretty upsetting book at times. There are some scenes in particular that might be triggering for some. But as well as that, it kind of changes pace quite a lot. This bit, there's this moment, it's probably just over halfway through, when suddenly there's this campaign happening to really try and free his father, and suddenly it becomes almost like, I don't know, watching an episode of Spooks or something like that. There are all these meetings in hotels and phone calls, and it all feels quite pacey and exciting and stressful, and all these big political figures come into it. Peter Mandelson's there, Tony Blair. It's all it's a real change of pace, whereas at other times it's much more about the history of Libya, or quite poetic memories of childhood there, ruminations on what it's like to go and visit. It's so many things at once, and I guess a question for you could be, which bit did you get the most from, or what style did you really connect to? Were there moments of the book that you were suddenly kind of in and really felt you were there in the pages, really feeling everything? And was that a particular style of writing or tone? Or were there others that were less effective for you? And how did you find this moving between these different styles? Yes, that would be one question. I think, maybe linked to that is a potential kind of issue with the book. I will say that I did love this book, and I think it's a really, really important book. It's powerful, it's moving, it's very informative, it's quite troubling. I have to say, I don't know if this just because I'm kind of getting stupider as I get older, but I did really struggle to keep track of the timelines in the book and, where we were and what was happening, whether we were in the kind of present of the book or in the past and how past and whereabouts we were. So, when I finished reading the book, I did actually go back through it to sort of have another look to think, was I just not really concentrating or something? Why was I so confused by the timelines? And I think in fact what's going on is there's more of a, hopefully it's not just me. I think it's more of a conscious decision by the author to create almost a layering of, his sort of present life and the return to Libya. And I'm going to read a little bit out from the beginning, which I think maybe helps to shed some light on why time gets so confused in this, and how difficult it is to return. Truly. Okay, so this is literally from the second page. So the book opens with the time. Early morning, March 2012 is the opening sentence. And the author, Hisham Matar, is going to Libya with, from Cairo to Libya, to Benghazi with his mother and his wife. And it's at the airport, Cairo International Airport. And he says, Diana, that's his wife, and I were now standing at the head of a long line. It bent behind us like a river. I pretended I had forgotten something and pulled her to one side. Returning after all these years was a bad idea, I suddenly thought. My family had left in 1979, 33 years earlier. This was the chasm that divided the man from the 8-year-old boy I was then. The plane was going to cross that gulf. Surely such journeys were reckless. This one could rob me of a skill that I have worked hard to cultivate, how to live away from places and people I love. Joseph Brodsky was right, so were Nabokov and Conrad. They were artists who never returned. Each had tried in his own way to cure himself of his country. What you have left behind has dissolved. Return and you will face the absence or the defacement of what you treasured. But Dmitry Shostakovich and Boris Pasternak and Naguib Mahfouz, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, were also right. Never leave the homeland. Leave and your connections to the source will be severed. You will be like a dead trunk, hard and hollow. What do you do when you cannot leave and cannot return? And then he was back in October 2011, so he's sort of back a little bit in time. But I suppose it would just be good to think through what's he actually saying there. I think he's saying, what do you do when you cannot leave? So you feel this kind of really deep tying connection to the homeland, and that if you were to leave and try and not keep that connection, you will be like a dead trunk, hard and hollow. So what do you do when you cannot leave? Which is obviously how he feels. He's still got this connection. He can't sever it. But also, cannot return. This thing that I know we've talked about in other discussions, the problem of being in exile, that when you return, there's been a change. You're not going back to exactly how it was when you were last there. As he says here, what you have left behind has dissolved. Return and you'll face the absence or the defacement of what you treasured. So it's kind of impossible. He's sort of caught in this paradox, and I wonder if what he's partly doing here in this book is trying to wrestle with that, and maybe that's partly why we're getting these kind of complicated layerings, the layering of the present, in which he sort of has tried to leave, and the return, in which the past and everything he's left behind is sort of coming up to the surface, as he is actually returning to Libya. So it's this sort of it's all kind of mishmashing together a bit. Maybe I'm not explaining that very well, but I hope you kind of see what I'm saying, that I guess when you are going back in space, to a different place that you've left, and also in time addressing, all these years that have passed since you were last there, and trying to uncover what has been going on to your father in that time. Inevitably, time gets a bit confused and muddled, and maybe the reader's experience of feeling that kind of blurring of time and timelines is kind of akin to the feeling that you might have when you are trying to do this return. Right. I think it's going to be quite a full-on discussion when we meet and talk about it, but I'm really looking forward to hearing what you make of this book. How much did you know about Libya before? How has this book informed you? How has it made you think about fathers and sons, I suppose, and family and homeland, and there's so much here. So yes, looking forward to hearing from you. I'm Emily Rhodes, and looking forward to discussing the return with you this June. Thanks.